who's your champion. And I tell you guys, when it's all said and done in this world, this will go down as one of the greatest title matches in pay-per-view history. No doubt.
Welcome to Last Match Standing, the podcast where we review, relive, and rank the 100 greatest wrestling matches of all time. As always, I'm Spencer.
I'm Paul.
And I'm Landon.
And we want to first give a quick shout out to Brett Dardar, who is actually the one who suggested this match for us this week. So thank you so much for him, but it brings up a great point where we want everyone to get involved with this podcast, right? So the first place to do that is where you're listening. So review us, whether it's on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, whatever you're listening to us with, definitely review us. You can comment on our Twitter, on our Facebook at Last Match Cast. You can send us an email at lastmatchstanding@gmail.com. Any feedback, any questions you have, we would love to hear. We'd love to hear your suggestions for matches that you think should be in the top 100 that we should review. And, you know, we're really, really happy to do one this week. And it's a good one, guys. This one's going to be a good one, I think.
So huge thanks to Brett. Dar. Really appreciate it. I heard that name and it's just like, it came to my head. Dar. Oh my God, this is the best name ever. Okay. So Eddie Guerrero versus Rey Mysterio is what we're talking about this week. And, you know, it's just one of those matches that everybody thinks of whenever you're talking about best matches ever if you watch WCW. So there's a lot of people out there who maybe have never seen a WCW match ever. And so this will be, hopefully you're watching along with us and you'll be able to dip your toes into the waters of what is WCW. Because so typically when people discuss WCW nowadays, people are talking about how nobody knew what they were doing, how horrible the booking was, how it was nothing but old, worn out, washed out WWF guys who were over the hill. But if you're saying that, you're overlooking several amazing wrestlers. Chris Jericho got his start in WCW. Dean Malenko, Juventud Guerrero, Billy Kidman, and two of the most incredible wrestlers of all time, Eddie Guerrero and Rey Mysterio.
Absolutely.
And one of the reasons why I love doing a match like this is because it's a match that, when you look at it now, is a standard bearer. It's one that people use to compare to other matches. You know, when you talk about how good cruiserweights are, or wrestlers in general, this is a match that people look at a lot to compare those things. And this is a match, you know, you talk about people that didn't watch WCW. I really haven't, and I didn't a lot. But this is definitely one that I was always really well aware of.
Well, what's great about this one is that this is not their first meeting. Well, it's not going to be their last meeting, but I like to think this is probably one of their best meetings.
Well, it was the case where these two guys, anytime they got in the ring together, they made magic.
Oh, yeah.
And this will not be the only Eddie Ray match that makes it on the top 100 list. I guarantee. I mean, it's just, they've had so many classics. I think we're both thinking of the WrestleMania 21 match right now.
Absolutely.
I mean, it's just phenomenal what these two could do. And the thing about Eddie is Eddie had a lot of pressure on him growing up. And so he essentially always had to become the guy who had a great match, because the Guerrero name, in not even just in Mexico, but in the United States, in the Southern Territories, Guerrero meant, oh, that guy can wrestle.
Well, yeah, I mean, that makes me think, you know, you want to fast forward to Vicky Guerrero later down the line.
Absolutely.
She says something during her last night as general manager, you know, when she was kind of rivaling with Stephanie McMahon or whatever it was at the time. She said that there is one name in the business that is more respected than McMahon, and that's Guerrero. And that has always proven true.
I believe so.
But that brings us to WCW Halloween Havoc 1997. Eddie Guerrero versus Rey Mysterio Jr. in a title versus mask match for the WCW Cruiserweight Championship. This is October 26th, 1997, from the MGM Grand Garden Arena in Las Vegas, Nevada.
And this is also the only good match in the card.
Ooh, I wish you were wrong about that. The main event of Halloween Havoc 1997, ladies and gentlemen.
It is exactly what you talk about when you're talking about old, washed-up WWF guys that were in the spotlight in WCW, right? It was what, Piper and Hogan?
Piper and Hogan in
a cage.
Not just a cage, the most rickety cage I've ever seen. When Hogan is climbing the cage, he's in the middle. He immediately hops down and goes into the corner and stays next to the post because that cage is so shaky. I'm like, oh, I would have refused to do the match.
So that gets us to Halloween Havoc 1997. It's not a super memorable event other than this match, right? And at 13 minutes and 51 seconds, this is going to be one of, if not the shortest matches that we have on this list the entire time.
Yes.
We forgot a very important part about Halloween Havoc 97. This was the Slim Jim Halloween Havoc 97. Did you see the ring? Did you see the ring posts?
It makes
very
everything
purple.
look devastating. when you have those Slim Jim ring posts, the tagline for this event, I love a tagline. I'll bring that up every week. The tagline for this event was "Snap into the Madness."
Yeah.
It's actually a really good tagline.
It's not that bad, actually.
Yeah.
No, it really, for Halloween Havoc, it makes a lot of sense. But, those Slim Jim ring posts are just iconic.
So, Paul, how young is Eddie Guerrero here?
Oh, man. Eddie is in his early 20s here.
And I didn't know Ray's even younger than that.
I think Ray is maybe
He's
18 or
18.
19. They're both very young.
Because you think about these guys growing up, and, obviously Eddie grew up with a ring in his backyard.
Right.
And he's thrown into these mid-card matches before he was ever even knew what he was doing just because of his name. And so by this time, they had both kind of grown up and knew what they were doing, and they were just reaching their prime. And so this match is just a treat. And knowing how close these guys are, and I'm sure they were back then too. In an interview, Eddie said, "I love Ray like my little brother. He's a kamikaze. He's got no fear, and it's a compliment to have that type of confidence with me." Because the confidence that Rey Mysterio had in Eddie and back and forth was what was allowed them to have the kind of matches that they could do, because you had to trust that guy beyond a shadow of a doubt that they were going to protect you. Some of the things that you see Ray do in the flips and the back flips and that crazy finish, which we'll get into, you don't do that unless you're confident that other person that you're looking across the ring from is going to protect you.
I think I'm going to quote JR on that one. He once said he looks at matches like this and looks on a paper. He said, "You want me to do what?" No, thank you.
Who said that?
JR.
Jim Ross was
Yeah.
in a match with Eddie Guerrero?
No. He was just saying, if you look on paper what these guys did.
Oh.
And it's
I'm picturing JR in the Jerry Lawler tights.
No.
Just
Tilt-a-whirl backbreaker.
No. But the point is, he said in an interview when we would watch matches like this, he said
Yes.
on paper what these men are doing. No, I'm not doing that.
Yeah.
Are you crazy? You're going to kill me.
The build for this matchup wasn't one that was lengthy. One of the reasons why some of the matches that make our list are on the list at all is because the build was so important to it, and it made for such an incredible story going into the match. This is not one of those instances, is it?
I believe I think this match was booked 6 days before it happened, if I'm correct.
And then they sort of found lightning in a bottle.
Pretty much. Well, that's kind of the case for especially this era of WCW, where they'd have the main event scene booked out 6 months in advance, but a lot of time you're mid in your lower card matches. All right, who's in the building? All right, you two go out there. You got 15 minutes. Kill them. And a lot of times that's kind of what happened. This is not necessarily the case with this match, because this was booked going into the show, but I think some of the other undercard matches, when you look at them on paper, like Jericho versus Ghetto, I'm like, these two aren't feuding.
Yeah, it's actually funny that you bring that up because the Jericho and Ghetto match was exactly that. It was exactly thrown together at the last second. And if you don't know who Ghetto is, this is a really, really fun fact. Ghetto is the main booker for New Japan Pro Wrestling now.
I was not aware of that.
If you watch this pay-per-view back, Ghetto's pants match the ring post.
I did not notice.
That's another fun fact for you.
He was there. He was ready for it. He had his Slim Jim that morning.
He snapped.
They probably had a whole bunch in the back.
He actually looked like he almost snapped at the end of that match. It was sort of an interesting finish.
Scary.
But yeah, so not much build to speak of. But what we do know is that it's title versus mask, and it's another one of these matches where the championship seems to kind of take a back seat to something else that's more important. In this case, it's Rey Mysterio's mask.
It is. So the week before this, Eddie Guerrero viciously beat Rey Mysterio and ripped the mask off of him. So he was technically unmasked on Nitro. I'm not sure about how much was exposed or anything like that. But Rey Mysterio cuts a promo after and is just, shows up with a mask and is just like, you thought that was my only mask? I have so many masks. Masks are so important. And he kind of goes into that heritage and what it means to be a luchador. And Rey's still young. It's not the greatest promo of all time, but they're telling the story that I absolutely agree. It transcends the title because, I mean, it is an important victory for Rey Mysterio at this point in his career to be known as a cruiserweight champion. Mm-hmm. But I feel like if you ask any luchador and they say my mask was on the line, that meant more to me, will be the answer every time.
Right, and they tell you during this match that this is Rey Mysterio's 9th match for his mask.
Wow.
His 9th one. And Eddie Guerrero, to this point, would be his toughest challenge in a match like that. The only other build, so to speak, going into this is Mysterio does beat Eddie Guerrero twice leading up to this pay-per-view. So he was 2-0 going against Guerrero. And the reason I appreciate that is because I feel like we see that play out again, at WrestleMania 21, with that match that we'll talk about later down the line.
Yes.
That same sort of, what does Eddie have to do to beat Rey?
Yeah.
And so that leads us here. And just to kind of set the stage for you for the actual match itself, you have referee Billy Silverman. There you go. Just so you know. And then a wonderful commentary team.
Oh, I love the commentary in this match almost as much as I love the match.
So, Paul, you told us something about this that I think is really interesting. Iron Mike Tenay, this is the only match he commentated this night,
That is
right?
correct, yes. He came out because he had so much knowledge about both wrestlers and about Lucha Libre in general. They figured, well, Mike, you should go out there and you should call this match with us because we don't really know who these guys are.
And he does an incredible job. So you end up having 4 guys on commentary. You got Tony, you've got Dusty Rhodes, and then you've got Bobby the Brain Heenan. And Iron Mike is giving you sort of all the meat while Bobby throws in his regular Bobby Heenan.
Oh, he's
lines.
got some spicy lines in this one.
Don't worry, we've got some Bobby Heenan one-liners for you this episode.
We'll definitely get there. But as the match starts, it's pretty early on in the card. I think it's maybe the 3rd match.
I believe so, yes.
Yeah. And during their entrances, they're not super, super memorable, but you definitely get a feel for the story of how dominating physically Eddie Guerrero is.
Oh, yeah. He's twice Rey's size. Eddie comes out second, but he comes out with his belt on his shoulder. There's no real... When he comes out, he's kind of got this look in his face like, I know what I have to do to beat this man. I'm not here to get cheered. I'm not here to slap thighs. I'm here to beat this man. And he just walks to the ring with this quiet, reserved confidence.
Oh, Eddie's demeanor is gold.
Oh,
he
yeah.
walks
So
out
good.
there and he has the crowd in the palm of his hand the entire time. time.
They hate him so much. They hate him so much. It's
excellent.
awesome.
And I love that his tights match the belt.
Oh, yeah.
And so it really it adds to telling the story. Like, you can't wear the championship belt when you wrestle.
No.
So the fact that his tights kind of showed that story going through the entire match. Hey, look, I'm the champ. You got to beat me if you want to be something here.
And he had champion's edge, as they called it.
Absolutely.
In WCW. So you knew the whole time from the second he stepped out onto that stage that he was the man to beat.
And also, he has the greatest mullet in the history of hair.
It's kind of beautiful.
It's really it's really good. it's really good.
But I'd like to talk about Rey's entrance. Rey comes out in a purple bodysuit. It's all one piece.
What the fuck is Rey wearing in this match?
Well, the summer of 1997, the Billy Zane vehicle, the Phantom, came out. And Rey Mysterio wanted to keep his finger on the pulse there. I'm going to wear the Phantom suit.
That's fantastic.
That's a great point because, Phantom aside, Rey Mysterio's character has always been, as far as since he debuted in WCW, it's Mysterio, right? So he plays up that question mark and that, you never know what his next mask is going to look like. You never know what he's going to do next. And so, okay, I get that.
But he's also done a really good job throughout the years of combining that mystery with something relevant.
Oh yeah, he's always done that, and it fits. It's not actually on Halloween, but this is the Halloween themed pay-per-view. Of course, he's going to do something spectacular. And what's really cool is not only is he wearing a suit, but he even has like the charcoal on his eyes, so you can only really see his mouth. And this is his old mask with a really large fins that almost completely cover his mouth. So he's almost completely obscured. What I really like is he has another mask that's hanging from his back.
That's
so
right.
When he comes out, he immediately turns around and kind of points like, this is the mask that Eddie stole from me. I got it back. Like, come on.
I totally missed that the first watch.
Oh, yeah. And then he gives it to as I've written down, a reptile child. The kid cannot keep his tongue in his mouth. And he also doesn't know how to do it too sweet properly. He just kind of goes like, with the mask on.
Sweet.
Oh, moments when we actually, you know what? That would be really fun. Just to add just a cam on you the whole time. We don't need to be in it.
So what you guys don't know is Paul makes the best facial expressions and impressions of people the entire episodes like every week.
Right. If we ever turn this into like a YouTube or like a live like a video version of
we're
this,
just gonna have a camera on Paul.
We're gonna have a camera on Paul. Landon's gonna be wearing Rey Mysterio's jumpsuit. It's gonna be super.
Oh, thanks for that.
That does sound like a really good idea for a bonus episode.
But during the entrances, I talked about how Eddie is built up as this big guy, right? He's the guy to beat, and he looks like championship gold. But one of the quotes about him that they say during his entrance is, "Pound for pound, you won't find a better pro wrestler today."
Yeah. They do a really good job of building up just how scary of an opponent Rey is. I'm sorry, not Rey. Eddie is. Just how tough he is, how he's in the best conditioning of his career. That like they said, pound for pound, like this is the best guy in the industry.
And you know what's not taken into account with the pound for pound phrase? Psychology.
Oh, yeah.
His psychology in this match is second to none.
Agreed.
And the way that he interacts with the crowd from the second he walks through those ropes. I mean, what's the first thing you hear whenever the bell rings?
Eddie sucks.
Eddie sucks for like 5 minutes.
And like they haven't even done anything yet. And this crowd has not made a peep all night. As soon as the bell rings, Eddie sucks. And he immediately puts his arms out and he's like, all right, come on.
Yep.
Give it to me.
Well, they're all jealous of his mullet.
Probably. I'm jealous of his mullet.
Oh. Paul doesn't have hair right now, but for those who can't see,
I am a bald man.
I actually think Paul looks mighty sexy without hair. So I think
thank
it's
you,
fun.
sir. But not as sexy as Eddie with this amazing mullet.
The mullet's great, but you're right. He has Latino heat, so to speak.
Oh, yeah.
Immediately.
Yep.
And really throughout the duration of the match and after the match. But the match starts quickly, and you knew it was going to. When I tell you that it's 13 minutes and 51 seconds, those are not 5 minutes in the beginning of nothing. It is fast from the moment the bell rings.
Oh, these two go hell for leather immediately. I just wrote down here like, holy shit, this pace is intense, and they do not let off. They keep this very high intense pace for the entire match, and it is amazing. And I just wrote down, this is why Lucha is so great.
I mean, Rey is moving so fast throughout this whole match. It's almost as if he's on fast forward.
Absolutely. Blink and you miss it.
Yep.
That's absolutely right. It does. It looks like that they are twice as fast as anything else that's happening, whether it's any match previously or after. I mean, I don't want to say twice as fast as Piper and Hogan because it's probably 4 or 5 times faster.
Yeah, minimum
But-
of 3.
Well, okay, so pacing is very important in wrestling, and the problem with pacing nowadays, I would say, and certainly in the Piper and Hogan matches, is you come to a point where, I'm going to put you in a rest hold, and then we're just going to sit here. And I'm going to look at the crowd. I'm going to look at you. We're going to have a conversation about it. And nothing is happening. But Eddie Guerrero understood pacing.
Oh, yeah.
And this whole match had pacing. Because you had your fast babyface spits with Rey and your I'm going to slow it down moments with Eddie. But Eddie is constantly moving. He's constantly changing his grip. He's constantly barking orders at the ref to tell him to back off. He's making it interesting with the pacing.
Because he understands that rest holds are boring, but if I keep, like I said, he changes the hold, or he pulls at Rey's mask, barks at the referee, or he gives the crowd this nasty look, and they just start booing him. And like, this is so great. Or he just switches the hold completely. Like, all right, I got you in this hold. No, I'll put you in another hold. I'm just going to keep changing things up to keep this interesting, because if we stop moving, we're going to lose the crowd.
And, I mean, he's focusing on the back of Mysterio this whole match. So, I mean, Spencer, we talked before about how brutal Eddie Guerrero's backbreakers can be.
He would make them look like they could have been a finisher. Like, that's how good they were.
Yeah.
And it's something that you see over and over again, whether it's a tilt-whirl backbreaker in this match or, whether he's doing these vicious-looking stretches on Mysterio where he just has him bent over his knee.
Oh, yeah.
The whole time you just and Rey has always played that part well of looking like he is close to death. Like that. Like that's the part that he plays really well, and that's part of why these two mesh together so well.
Every move Eddie makes in that ring is in one way or another an attack on the spine of Rey Mysterio.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Every submission, every punch, every counter, he's focusing on the back of Mysterio.
And you mentioned a minute ago when he bent him over, he puts him in this really wicked abdominal stretch, but he grabs his outside leg and wrenches it even farther. And while he's doing this, he starts pulling on Rey's mask. He actually gets a small tear in his mask. And we got a great line from Bobby Heenan. He said, perhaps he should rip everything off if that's what he needs to do. And there's a second of silence, like, what are you saying?
What?
Because the mask and the suit are connected. Right. We'll just rip the whole thing off then, guys. That's what he needs to do. Rip the whole thing off.
And there's that moment in the match where Eddie does rip the mask, and it almost comes completely off.
Oh, yeah.
And that's when Bobby says, let's go look at that guy's kisser.
Oh, my God. Okay, so my favorite Bobby Heenan line of this match is... So Rey's moving so fast, and he's jumping all across the ring. So Bobby says, I'd like to get a gun on him and see how fast he jumped out the ring.
And immediately Tony's like, you mean like a judge's gun, right?
Like a water gun? Oh, it's bad.
There is no shortage of Bobby the Brain Heenan brilliance, so to speak, in this match. But the way the match is kind of from the get-go is it's very back and forth in the beginning until Eddie throws Rey into the steps.
Ooh.
And it's it looks like it's set to hurt, Rey's back and his shoulders, but he gets just about head first into those steps.
Did you guys notice this was like a double hit? So Rey's head hits the steps and then his shoulder. So typically if you're thrown into the steel steps on the outside, you do this little tuck and curl and then your back hits them and then you sell it. That's not what happened here.
No.
Rey's head hit first and then he does the back spot, and it looks brutal.
Yes. That's one way of putting it.
One of the things that I think and this is one of the things that makes this match so great, but why people really love cruiserweights in general, is not only is the pace really, really fast, but everything feels extra hard hitting.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. Well, I kind of wrote down, like, since Rey is so light and he can bump so well, he takes these insanely sick-looking moves. Like, Eddie does, like, a pump-handle backbreaker. Yeah. I was convinced he actually broke Rey's back with that. And then at one point, he hits, like, what I called the most devastating powerbomb in the history of powerbombs. Folded him in half. And then he, like, tucks his legs underneath so he's still folded in half. He doesn't let him go flat.
He looks broken.
He does. He's like, I broke your back, and now I'm going to beat you. It's just, it's so brutal. It was brutal.
It was brutal.
In one
trademark.
In one facet of this match, you have Eddie Guerrero being really powerful, right?
Oh,
and,
yes.
And just being physically dominating. In the other side, you see Rey Mysterio being incredibly athletic and doing these things in a ring that, to this point, were things you had never really seen before.
No.
One of the first moments of that that happens in this match is Rey does this amazing springboard DDT with a backflip off of the top
it's
rope.
Beautiful.
It's fluid. It's perfect.
It is. It is as smooth as it could have possibly been.
Oh, yeah.
And when that happens, Rey gets his first burst sort of offense. And it was sort of, when I was watching it, I was thinking, this is how I know it's going to be something special. Like, this is when it starts right here.
What's great is, like, he does that. He does, like, runs into he gets Irish whipped into the turnbuckle, hops up on the top rope, and then does a corkscrew moonsault. He doesn't land it quite right. They kind of cover. Oh, he did it into, like, a headbutt. I think he was just a little too close to it, but still, that's not an easy move to do. When you're running full speed and then have to springboard for it, it's impressive.
It has to be second nature.
Oh, he does. There's a point where Eddie Guerrero's on the outside of the ring. He's standing on the crash mats outside. Rey runs from one side of the ring, hops up onto the second turnbuckle, dives over the top rope, and then does a hurricanrana on the outside.
Oh, yeah.
I jumped out of my seat.
Yeah.
And I think
Goosebumps.
all four commentators did too, because you immediately hear Bobby go, "Oh my God, I've never seen anything like this before in my entire life."
And that's Bobby Heenan saying that.
Right.
They got Bobby.
It was incredible. I mean, it really is one of those moves where you don't even see that today, really. It's that good, and it's that rare, and it was something so special. And a feeling that I get is that only those two guys could have pulled that off in that moment, and it was really awesome to see.
So there was another moment that kind of made me jump out of my seat and go. Did y'all catch the slide where Eddie missed Rey on the turnbuckle?
I think that was an accident because he hit so hard, and his reaction is very.
Yeah, that is the hardest gonad hit on the turnbuckle I think I've ever seen.
Well, it made it so much worse because it was the Slim Jim turnbuckle.
Oh, it was. It was. I mean, it's like bright red and yellow. It's like you can't miss it. It's doing.
But there's a good 3 seconds. He just puts his face in the mat. I'm pretty sure that was accidental.
Yeah.
We do get a great sequence, though, where Eddie does the Gory Special, which is a move his father invented, and then Mike Tenay goes on this. He just starts laying out all this knowledge about Eddie's dad, about how Eddie's dad was revered as one of the greatest wrestlers in the history of lucha. And then he does a Canadian backbreaker, which was my finish move when I was a wrestler. That's not important. What is important is that Mike goes on. Then he starts talking to us about Rey Mysterio's background, about how he wrestled as El Calibre, which means the hummingbird, for 3 years before his uncle said, "All right, you're good enough to carry on my tradition," and then gave him the Mysterio mask. And then we get another wonderful Bobby Heenan line. Mike, tell me what you don't know.
I'm so glad, Paul, that you brought that up, because this match, where it lacked story going into it, is made up for tenfold with Iron Mike in the middle of this match. He gives you all the story you could ever want and more throughout the course of this match, and you can tell he cares about it. He makes you want to care about it, and it's about more than just the Cruiserweight Championship.
Oh, yeah.
That feels like an afterthought.
And then their work rate makes the other three men care about it.
Absolutely.
Because they really get invested in this match. Around the time of the baseball slide, you can really tell they're getting invested in this. And we get another great Bobby Heenan line. The slide don't hurt. It's that sudden stop at the end.
Ooh.
There's another one when they're talking about at this point we're 8-9 minutes in, and it's been so fast paced, and what you're watching is something special. Tony says only one of these guys is going to walk away a winner.
Bobby goes, and one will limp.
Exactly.
I love you, Bobby Heenan.
It's the best. It's the best. But we have a contest that is hard hitting, that is groundbreaking, and then it goes into such a special finish. I mean, it just comes out of nowhere. Again, blink and you'll miss it. It's fantastic.
And what makes this finish so special to me was that a lot of times today, when a finish is coming because they just did their finishing move for the 5th time.
Yep.
And it's a finishing move because that's the only way that a match can end nowadays. This was not a 619. It was not a frog splash.
No. Eddie goes to set up for a top rope backplex, to which Rey reverses it. So then Eddie corrects himself and then goes to do a crucifix powerbomb off the top rope. And as soon as they start to fall, Rey reverses that into a top rope hurricanrana. And I once again jumped out of my chair and started shouting, "Oh my God, this is amazing."
So when asked what makes this match so magical, Rey, who personally considers it in his top 3, says that it was because when you perform under pressure, you always get the best out of yourself and your opponent. So his mask was on the line, and they were messing with him the whole time, saying that, "Oh yeah, man, your mask is coming off. There's nothing we can do about it. This is the direction we've been wanting to go." And he was really eaten up about it. Literally minutes before the end of the match, literally minutes before they were to go out, it was changed. He was pulled aside, and they said, "Look, we are gonna give you the belt." And so they had to rework a lot of that stuff to change the story so that Rey would come out on top. And so we've spent, the past 15 minutes talking about how amazing some of these spots were. They came up with all that on the fly.
Oh, yeah. Like, the story I was told is like 5, maybe 10 minutes for the match. Rey's panicking because he didn't know what to do. And then Eddie said, "Hey, kid, just follow me.
Yeah.
We'll get through this."
And Rey, Rey tells the story in really great detail on Chris Jericho's podcast. They did an Eddie special on Chris Jericho's cruise, and he kind of details the story of what happened here. And all those things are true. It was Arn Anderson that ended up pulling him aside. But most importantly, at the very end, when he's telling the story, he does say that Eddie just said, "Trust him," and he made Rey look like $1 million.
Yep. Made Rey Mysterio's career with that match, I'd have to say.
I agree.
And it speaks to the absolute genius of Eddie Guerrero. When the match ends, we have that incredible spot off the top rope. Rey gets the pinfall. He wins. He wins the Cruiserweight Championship, which, by the way, was on the line, right?
Crowd comes completely unglued with that.
They are ecstatic because they have all bought into this match. Rey Mysterio is standing in the corner talking into the camera when Eddie Guerrero kind of pushes him from behind into the turnbuckle. And then the rain of boos.
Oh, yeah.
Latino heat.
Instantly come back. Rey Mysterio rolls out of the ring. He walks back up the ramp to leave Eddie there
and he just
catching all of it.
Takes all of it in. And I can imagine he was going like, "Oh, yeah, we got him. They may be booing, but they love me."
Right. You're absolutely right.
So true.
So I know this match is great, and we'll rank it here shortly in just a couple moments. But what does this match mean specifically to you? I know when we talk about these contests, this Brett and Austin, how much it meant, and Cactus Jack and Triple H, what it meant for Cactus Jack. But what is having this match on the list, having it be Eddie Guerrero versus Rey Mysterio? What does that mean to you?
Well, for me personally, I had actually never heard of this one because I know a little bit about WCW, but I mainly know more stuff about like NWO era, this is technically in the beginning of that NWO era. But I know more later WCW when the wheels fell off and it just kind of the company just went downhill. So when this was recommended to us, like, ooh, I've never seen this one before. This would be a good one. And when I watched it probably 4 or 5 times, whenever it went off the first time, I was like, this is one of the best matches I've ever seen in my entire life. And I had a huge amount of respect for both of these men beforehand. I have even that much more after watching this, because I realized that they called this in the ring. They had very, very little planned, and they were able to pull this out with maybe 10 minutes of time beforehand, and they got a crowd that did not give a shit, because those first 2 matches were stinkers. They did not care. They make so much noise in this match that the crowd, even though the next 3 or 4 matches are not very good, they're still loud. They're still into the ring, into the action. So it just, for me, this might be one of my favorite matches of all time now. And it really makes me appreciate Eddie.
Absolutely.
A lot.
That's in an interview, Eddie said that he measured success with how much he could please wrestling fans. And to me, having this match on the list is a testament to the successfulness of Eddie Guerrero's career.
Absolutely.
It's a match where 2 of the greatest of all time set a new bar that hadn't been reached before. And I'm grateful for it. And, this would not be the last classic that they give us.
Oh, no.
But man, oh, man, was this a game changer.
Absolutely. And just, I guess my closing thought on this match is God damn it, I miss Eddie.
I think we all do. I think that goes without saying. Favorite moment?
I wrote down the entire match. It's just, from start to finish, it's just so good.
Yep.
But if I had to pick something in particular, just Eddie's intensity.
Mm-hmm.
When he does that amazing power bomb, is that hurt me watching it.
Yeah.
When he does the Gory Special and turns it into a backbreaker, I'm like, oh God, this is so good. Listening to the crowd care in a WCW show where half the attendance is papered and they're just there for the free drinks. Give a shit. It really makes me excited as a wrestling fan to watch stuff like this.
Yeah, my favorite pieces of this match are the little intricacies that you can point out whenever Eddie Guerrero is working on Rey Mysterio.
Oh, yeah.
And if he's not working on Rey Mysterio, he's working on the referee. And if he's not working on the referee, he's working on the crowd.
Mm-hmm.
And I mean, he might as well have been coming straight through the camera and working on me.
Oh,
The whole time, I'm just wanting to punch this guy in the face.
Mm-hmm.
Because that's real storytelling. That's what wrestling should always be about. And that's what this match does better than so many other matches.
I'll tell you, for me personally, I could give you all sorts of specifics during this match as far as, these amazing high spots that Mysterio and Guerrero do, or Guerrero's brutality. Instead, I'm going to give you a moment before and after the match. I say before. It was after the bell rang, but it was really what started the match. Guerrero and Rey are in the middle of the ring, and Guerrero's just getting all these boos, right? But Guerrero gets into Rey's face, and he's just talking. He's just kind of yelling at him. He's kind of hyping it up. And the thing he says before he goes to punch Rey for the first time is, I am going to take that mask right off of your face. And it's very over the top, and it's very big, but it is very effective. And it just shows how good Eddie is, that even something that could have been kind of silly was taken very seriously, and I really appreciated that. And then the end, just attacking Rey afterwards, it's a little nothing that really doesn't mean anything, but it's the character, man.
And you just love beating up Rey Mysterio. I get it.
It's
like
really
you like beating
whatever.
up the little guy. Sure, Spencer.
Yeah, it's fine. I'm sure that I'm reflecting that off of past memories of myself. But the point is, it's fine. Eddie Guerrero was great.
Spencer. Down he goes.
It's it's good. But inevitably, we have to rank it, right? We have to rank this match, and this is our first actual sort of debate here. So as things stand now, number 1 is Bret Hart, Steve Austin submission match. Number 2, Triple H, Cactus Jack, street fight from the Royal Rumble 2000. Where does Eddie and Rey Halloween Havoc 1997 rank?
I know this might be a controversial opinion, but for me, this is my number 1. And I know the reaction I'm going to get for saying that, but
Cue the death glare from
I
Landon.
just have to say that this is a match that I had never heard of, never seen before, and I watched it 5 times just in a row because I was just in awe of every moment of this, the psychology, the work rate, the intensity, the fact that despite how fast they were moving and how intricate the spots were, there's not really a whole lot of mistakes in this match. I can only really see like maybe 1 or 2. And even then, they covered it so well that you move on to the next moment. It's just, this is a masterclass of just work rate, athleticism, psychology. Just everything that makes pro wrestling great is in this match, and that's why I personally would put it as number 1.
You're right. I have to agree with you. Everything that makes pro wrestling great is in this match. But for me, it's in the match. It's a moment in time.
Yes.
There's not a whole lot of build before. There's not a whole lot that comes after it. Rey, after this, Rey drops the belt back to Eddie and they move on with life.
Pretty much.
So for me, our number 1, to go over the number 1, has to be something that surpasses the magnitude that was Bret Hart walking into that match as one man and walking out another, and Steve Austin walking into that match as one man and walking out another. They were both fundamentally changed based on what happened in that match. And I truly believe we wouldn't have Stone Cold Steve Austin that we know were it not for their WrestleMania 13 submission match. So for that reason, I don't think it can quite move up to number 1. But I'm very comfortable putting it in the number 2 spot. Spencer?
Yeah, I basically from hearing both of you, it feels like it is solidly over Cactus Jack Triple H. And I think the reason why I feel that way is because what Triple H and Cactus Jack offer you, what that match offers you, is brutality, which you can see in other matches.
True. Very true.
Specifically anything in Mick Foley's catalog. But Rey Mysterio, Eddie Guerrero gives you something that you hadn't seen before, and it gives you something that stands the test of time in terms of in-ring ability. And so for that, I think it does deserve to be number 2. It's not quite number 1. I think it does leave something to be desired in terms of storytelling, in terms of impact to the characters, so to speak. But I'm very happy with it being number 2 right now as well.
Oh, I agree with both of you. I that's why I'm not vehemently arguing, debating. But one thing I will love to say about this match is this is just a taste of what these two can do. And I think that's another thing that makes it so special.
I think you're absolutely right. So there you go. Right now, the number 2 match of all time, WCW Halloween Havoc 1997, Eddie Guerrero versus Rey Mysterio in a title versus mask match for the WCW Cruiserweight Championship.
And I'm super interested to see if you agree with that. So one thing that we've done that will hopefully make this a little bit more fun for everybody is so we have our last match standing ranking of the top 100 matches of all time. And hopefully you're following along with us. So if you go to ranker.com, we have a last match standing list for you guys to upvote and downvote your own matches. So the audience can have their own list. We'll have ours, and we'll talk about how those lists stack up against each other. So go over to Ranker and rank where you think this match should be on that list.
Yeah, a big thank you again. Huge thanks to Brett. What was that last name?
Dar.
Very good. Thank you.
Thanks, Brett.
It was the best. Thank you so much for sending in our first recommendation for a match here on Last Match Standing. Again, if you're listening to us on Apple Podcasts, please review us there, on Spotify, the Google Play Store, wherever you listen. Give us our feedback. Let us know how we're doing. Let us know what you want out of this podcast, because this is for you. Again, you can hit us on Twitter, Facebook, at Last Match Cast. You can also email us whether we missed something, we did something wrong, right? Which is altogether possible. I know that all too well. If we made a mistake, you can let us know via email, or you can send in your match suggestions as well to our email, which is lastmatchstanding@gmail.com.
And I promise I will make fun of your name.
we will bank on that. Thanks again to Dustin, who makes us sound better than we actually are. So we really, really appreciate that. But next week, we'll be back to reviewing, reliving, and ranking another match that's one of the top 100 of all time. But until then, I'm Spencer.
I'm Paul.
And I'm Landon.
And this is
Last Match Standing.